Hi, everyone, and welcome to the West Virginia Mine Wars Museum. We have a special treat for you tonight. We are hosting a poetry reading. We're going to have some music, and we are featuring two wonderful, brilliant authors, Evan Gray and Kevin Chesser. For the folks who are here in person, I just want to take care of a couple of housekeeping things. If you need to use the restroom at any time, they are located downstairs. Just follow the signs and it'll take you right to it. We've got refreshments in the back as well. By all means, help yourself to that. If you would like to support the artists who are here tonight, we've got a merch table set up in the back. All proceeds will go to them. And I think that's the big housekeeping things I've got tonight. We're going to kick things off with a little song, a little poetry from Kevin Chesser. Kevin drove all the way from Tucker County to be here with us tonight. So let's give a nice, warm Matewan welcome to Kevin Chesser. Kevin?
Cool. Yeah. Hello. My name is Kevin, and I live in Thomas, West Virginia. I feel like I had a whole thing that I was going to say. I just kind of slid right off of my brain as soon as I got behind the mic here. But really what I've been saying is that I don't really know hardly anyone down in this part of the state, and so I don't get very many opportunities to come here. I did get to come and read when the museum was in its other location across the street in 2019, and I don't know, it's just really special to get to come all the way down here, and the landscape is amazing, and also just to get to, we're here like in the Union Hall, so just to get to share something that I made in this a really special place, sort of the seat of some really important, West Virginia history, history from the past and living history. So it feels really special to be here. And I'm grateful. I don't know if my work really engages with history a whole lot. I kind of feel like it's more like one long contest with myself to find the most convoluted way to tell a joke. That's kind of how I describe my writing. But my music is sort of rooted in like old styles of like West Virginia banjo playing. Stuff I'm going to play for you tonight is stuff that I wrote, but it's sort of in an old style. So I'll play a tune and I'll read some and then I'll finish up with a tune. So thanks a lot for having me. And yeah, I've got books back there too. Books and stickers. What the hell was I going to do first? I'm incredibly resistant to giving things titles. Unless I like go and actually record something, I pretty much can't ever settle on a title. So this is one of those. And I've had this tune for a few years now, and I've never settled on a title.
Thanks.
I'll read some from this book of poems that I put out this year. It's called Relief of My Symptoms, and I put it out with Ghost Palace Press, which is my friend Jen Esco. It's her micro imprint, and it was cool to work with her on the book. She brings sort of like a different knowledge-based project like this, because she's not like a literary editor. She's actually a designer and an illustrator. So she had some cool ideas for the design of the book. And anyway, you can find her on social media at Ghost Palace Press. Her stuff is really cool. She does risograph printing, which is kind of like halfway between Xeroxing and screen printing, and does a lot of cool visual art stuff. So I like to rep her wherever I go with this book. I also want to rep the artist who did the cover. His name is Bill Dunlap, and he's an artist based in Western Maryland in Cumberland, and he's on Instagram and all the just at his name, so he's easy to find. But as you know, part of making a book is that chance to actually collaborate with people, which is not something that I had as much of a chance to do when I was just stapling stuff together on my living room floor, doing it all by myself, which is like, has its own value, but it's cool to actually work on stuff with other people. So I'll read some from here, and I'll play another tune, and I'll disappear into the night. I think I'll start with the poem that I usually read last, just to see what that feels like. A Visit to the Grand Canyon. People like to talk about the grand scheme of things, and things in and of themselves, and things that have been on their mind lately. They like to talk about rhythm being a thing that one either has or doesn't, and they like to talk ad infinitum about the things of this world. They will also mention this thing that's growing inside them, which gives them pause. Inside that pause, the water is rising, and inside that water, a thing of beauty, which is, of course, drowning. They will stop you in the middle of what you're saying and say, that's just a thing. And you are alone in these moments, because where are they going with that? You thought all things were in your sight. And you say, no, I don't mind being alone, but typically I prefer to go down to the water to be alone, not to be completely and desperately alone in the company of another person. That's the thing that bugs you. All this talk about talent and temperament and, hey, cheer up, things will turn around sooner or later, something often said and rarely believed. Consolation erodes belief, like surf into cliffs. And I think that's in the Bible, actually, right after the thing about how God doesn't take things personally, doesn't need or want anything from you. It is you that is the needing and wanting thing, and God's interest rates are fixed anyway, so you can thank him for that. I have too many things in my house, too many things on my to-do list, too many things standing in my way, too many symbols, signs, and wonders, the light of the sun, the cool of the clouds, who is chasing who, and these things they cling like monkeys to branches or people to life. All it scrapes and burns and bloodbaths, meteor showers. And they say, who says? No one says a love of life is a love of blood as it falls from the sky or erupts from the earth. Except for me, I am the one saying it to you right now. It is the thing I am saying and have been saying this entire time. Thanks. There is sort of a narrative about a family that kind of runs through this book, so maybe I'll do a few of those. I read it, like I did one event where my family actually did come, and like I just kind of had to explain them. I was like, it's just It's just the well of archetypes, okay? It's not about you, all right? Not everything's about you. Clearly, it's all about me. That's why you write a book of poems, so that everybody knows that everything's about you. Okay, I'll do a couple of these family poems. I do have twin brothers, though. Over creeks and pastures, the twins were walking somewhere. They left the trail hours ago, and the one named Jacques was starting to get annoyed. Jacques said to the other twin, whose name was Jan, "This little outing's gone on long enough, don't you agree?" But Jan did not agree. He wanted to find the hermit's cave where there was treasure or a stack of nudie magazines or both. "Didn't you hear what Mother said if we weren't back before dark, Jan? She'd boil our heads for supper." Jan pointed to the mouth of a cave in the distance. Their mother was always making threats, but really she was as harmless as a turnip. Jacques withheld the fact that he'd previously seen the entrance to the cave in a dream. "Whatever happens," Jan said, "I'm glad you're my brother." This one is called "I Was in America." In the 80s and 90s, people like to stay alive forever by swallowing big mouthfuls of porch light every evening. I had a mini Aztec pyramid Dad built for me. The bees would go up there and sacrifice themselves. The neighbors were bored of living. Dad would conjure cardinals out of an oil drum. "Please, call me Mom," he said, but mishearing him over the sound of his chainsaw, I called him Moon. It was Moon who played the guitar made out of cordwood and wire. It was Moon who called me last month out of the blue. Thanks. What else we got here? We'll do another family one. Ancient grains. Mom was there, way off in the distance. I was 5 years old, waist deep in the wild at heart suburban water. That water was air conditioned. I prayed a salamander back to life. This was Dad's birthday. I knew what to give him. He loved that salamander, more than I ever could. With it resting in his hand, Dad became calm and ate so much bread. That house was air conditioned, but I kept thinking about going back out in the water. I'd have to wait until later, after Dad and the salamander were asleep. This left no small amount of time to kill. I stood and looked at myself in the mirror for a while. The buttery grains in my eyes started to run out of my face and onto the floor. "Oh shit," I said, waking up Dad and the salamander. My punishment was to stand at the window until morning. Not so bad. Saw the moon come up. Saw Mom out there, way off in the distance, digging a hole for the whole earth. What else? What should I read from this? There's like some more unhinged stuff in here that maybe I'll read. I'll do two. I'll do two unhinged ones, and I'll play another tune, and that'll be. Let's see. Yeah, I'm actually this next one. I kind of can't believe that I printed this. I was like weirdly proud of it, even though it's really kind of just loony and sort of idiotic. Anyway, Lost in the Waves. Gather, children, around this fire. Tonight, there is no story to be told but our own. Before we walked on land, humans were just ghosts lost in the waves. I am tired already from looking at you and breathing the smoke. Today, we are the same, maybe more wide-ranging, from Dust Bowl to Milk Bowl. The great scholars all nod in agreement. Children, do you ever say anything? I am loitering here with the worst ideas of our moment. As a matter of fact, I knew each of you when you were worse than ideas. That is to say, I knew your parents. Oh, the wonders of their interior architecture. And so my youth was spent. Whatever I share with you, I beg you to share with others. It's a way to live on. You won't learn anything as great in your school books. Not that I'm against books. I wrote a book. It's called How to Breathe Smoke and Retire on a Mealworm's Pension. It's out of print. See the stars? They're retired too, but on not so fixed an income. One day you will make little parables out of them that not even you yourselves will heed. What happens when we don't heed our own advice? It's a version of Lost in the Waves, written by the ghostly mealworm himself. Here we are, my handsome hatchlings, at the end of human wisdom, and no money for a return ticket. Unless you didn't bring any money, did you? Forgive me. I've breathed so much smoke and looked so long at your faces. I feel like hell's first prisoner. Okay, all right. Let's see here. I actually don't know how I'm doing on time or how long I should go. What do you think?
I think you're so good.
Yeah, maybe do another poem and play a tune. Does that sound good? All right. Okay. I'll do two slightly shorter ones. Plato's Man Cave. Shows you the extent of my knowledge of philosophy. What of all these men constructing and constructed by the things they see and seem in their dreams? You couldn't bring them back if you tried. Then there's the other matter of the lost hikers and the other matter of the gangs of toughs. Okay, you say, what do you know about either? Steady, I say, here's what I know. The gangs of toughs never talk about themselves because anyone could be listening and the night is not safe. Lost hikers never stop talking about themselves or whatever, really. They follow their echoing voices, echoing until they arrive at lost. It's the people with the least trouble to start with who are always out looking for more. That's why I've never found any occupation more suited to me than being a fake doctor. Down the line, I fear we will discover many of our lost hikers will have done their losing in the man caves of America. Okay, you say, what do you know about the man caves of America? Well, you were hiking for a long time until you hiked into a dream. It is a dream to me, but my man cave to you. That's what makes this so difficult. Okay. I guess I'll do the last one I'll do is the one poem that actually mentions West Virginia, though I guess it's really kind of neither here nor there, but Night Memo. Stiff upper lip was never the issue. I'm talking about the other one, rain and the fire of my dreams. Country songs, my old tired head, that was the issue. Animals born at the zoo were the issue. Animals born in the wild. Japanese beetles, lanternflies, kudzu was the issue. At night, I'd press my hand against it, but it was fake. Lost my hand. 1,000,006 bugs swarming at the concession stand window, Hampshire County, West Virginia. I drank coffee and tried to stage an intervention. Lost my other hand. Hotter on a dark road home. I make a list of things to do before I die. I make a list and lose it. I've never died. It's not an issue. Some things put out a light so small you can't see it. That's not me. Thanks. Good. I'll play a tune and get out of here. Anyway, Evan and I have not seen each other in like 5 years, and we've been like talking back and forth about like stuff that we want to work on together for like the last year or so after having not even really had much contact for a little while there. So feels like there's been a lot of lead up to this. I'm just really happy that we're finally getting to do it. And I'm so stoked to get to come out and like support him on his book tour. Is this the first thing that you've done out of state, out of North Carolina? Yep. Yeah. So anyway, sort of like the next leg of the tour. And so that's really cool. And his book is in the back. You'll learn more about it. I got books in the back too. I got music on Spotify. My thing is called Wizard Clip with 2 P's. I got stickers back there. It's on Spotify. It's on Bandcamp. It's easy to find. There's a little like a little stoned cat on the cover, so you'll know it you'll know it when you see it. Oh, this is a tune off of that record. Thank you.
All right. All right, let's hear it one more time for Mr. Kevin Chester. All right. Our next artist, performer, poet is Evan Gray. Evan is a visiting assistant professor at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina. Coming straight from the mountains of North Carolina with his book, Thickets, Coated, and Fence-Covered Briars. It's a mouthful. I swear I rehearsed a little bit before this. Evan Gray, let's hear it for him.
I wasn't going to read it, but this Cool. Thanks, everybody. Thank you all for being here. It's good to be here for you all. Thank you for having me and Kevin on this stop. My first time in Matewan, so I appreciate it. I grew up in Beverson, North Carolina, so it's like the northwest corner of North Carolina. Go to Virginia a little bit. I never really came to West Virginia, though. A bunch of people from my high school come up here and ride four-wheelers. So that's what I knew about the area a little bit. But I'm going to read. Sweet. Sorry. I'm like, oh, perfect. I'm going to start with some new stuff. Lewis asked me to read this poem on our drive up. We were listening to AC/DC a bit to get in the mood. So this one's called Hardy's. I think it's funny in some ways. A lot of people don't laugh at it, but feel free to laugh. It's called Hardy's. I bashed my head in that weekend with the stock of a pistol sitting in my living room because it started to snow and my boat wouldn't start. Boat I sold the chainsaw to fix the hull of. Boat I drove to Morgantown to get. Boat I so dearly wanted and contemplating selling my plasma over and over. And after I did so, I sat there and thought about how somewhere downstate a largemouth was chasing bait fish and some fella outside of Charlotte had life. How somewhere maybe there was a little boy that doesn't know how to get to Petersburg on his own and has his daddy to call, but I didn't have one. And I beat my head in a little more until I knew it hurt and I could feel my toes again through these work boots, the tension of which has left me hanging and disoriented. And then I took to the highway to see what I could see, but only made it to Hardy's. And while my head was ringing and my toes were numb, I held the mouth of a 10-pound bass in my mind. The mustard here tastes like the streets of heaven or anywhere. A calf has licked over my head too many times, just as this pistol stock cleaned my clock, left me spinning ass backwards. I feel as feral as a cud stomach. I feel as if I could use another licking upside the head. Get a run and go and toss my ass into Horse Creek. Get a run and go and make me a parking lot somewhere near the community college. I owe it to myself in this time to eat this cheeseburger in my truck as I eulogize my boat money gone to rot in this winter of blistered tits. No barstool country joint could get me in the right mind. And I believe in the Black Panthers that Gary and the others told me that live off the guardrail off Old 16. For I behold them on the trail camera pictures. For I behold them and they're still there. I believe I got it right the last time I knocked myself upside the head with the pistol stock. I believe the Black Panther is peeking out at me right now, and he is the reason I'm here. I hit myself until they appear in the dark periphery of my consciousness. The coon hunters park beside me while I eat, stare, but I know it's impolite to stare, but I do not remind them. I am curious of the sky, but I do not stare. I am curious of the woman with the round ass, but I do not stare. Behold, someone from the city has came and ran them off. When I make it to the lake on my boat, by God, folks will see it coming then. When the heavens rain down and the Black Panthers come get me and lead me to their cavern, they will nuzzle my wounded head and show me somewhere where the living is all right and the fishing is constant. Thank you. There's a Hardee's in my town, and it's a funny. I've never been to a Hardee's like it, but you can go through the drive-through and you can get like anything you want. Like it doesn't even have to be food from Hardee's. You can get like like spaghetti if they have it. They'll make you just about anything. But my dad used to take me before school, and the lady who would run the window would be so nice to him. And my mom thought that they were having an affair. They weren't, I don't think. I don't know. This is called Dirge. I also think it's funny in ways, but some people just say it's sad. My lover brought me coffee to bed. She plucked at the thorns in my back and she replaced them with eyes. She sings to me a song and lays naked in the linen sheets. A sea lion is yelling for its home. My lover walks me to the garden. She points to each of the tragedies. The man who gutted the barn cat. The mare who was stuck in the flooded creek bed. The crow's nest empty in the corner of the barn. I weep and my lover returns inside. At the window, she undresses. She feels only a half inch away. Over dinner, she tells me the living room is only an ant farm. She tries to console me in my sadness. The living room is only the river. Christ was pierced by a spear. His erection was concealed by a white cloth. The sign above him read, "Your name is in his heart." Thank you. Thank you. I got this one right here I wrote. It's about a crow who follows this man in town. And it's got a little bit of West Virginia history in here. It's called Crow. 10 years later, I'm stirred awake in the night. A crow has been wearing my face through town. Everyone who sees me identifies me as a crow, but they do not know my name. The earth is similar here, as it were, just only more vape shops, only more traffic stops, only more guns, only more people, and more tourists. Several battles of Blair Mountain occur each night in my mind. I am chased down a hill and shot. I am pinned against the organ of a man and then shot. I am forced to watch the mountain erupt and then shot. I am forced to eat turtle soup to prove my origin and then shot. I dream during driver's ed, a cop pulls me over, and I kindly explain to him there are several battles of Blair Mountain that occur each night in my mind. Everyone in this world wishes they had flannel shirts like me, he says, and they wish they could evade speeding tickets. The crow has not stopped following me. He flies a safe distance from worry. He flies below church steeples as a sign of respect. On 9/11, he flies at half-mast. On May Day, he doesn't work. This is the type of behavior that makes him respected by all. Even the drunks with their shotguns let him go. They can tell him apart from the other crows. I think that's the response that I was going for. All right, I grew up in the church. I grew up Free Will Baptist. Anybody else grow up Free Will Baptist? No? Yeah? All right, sweet. We'll have to talk later, Thomas. There was I was like 12 or 13. I used to always draw like Hey Arnold here in church, like in the back of the hymnals. And I'd try and get my mom to play hangman with me in church. I think that's kind of funny. But I always thought it was funny how in that church, like no one ever really sang except for the women. It was really like even everyone would stand up. No one in my family would sing unless they were the women. This is called A Horse Trailer Passes Through the Gates of Heaven. Thunder cranks like a chainsaw. Praise be. The brush pile billows over the parkway. A saxophone of finches break the ridge line. Praise be. In my youth, the church pews brace my weight. I stand, but I never sing. I never sing in front of anyone. I only sing when I'm completely alone or in my dreams. I would never sing in a church. I would never sing in a bar. I would never sing in the opera. Though if I could sing anywhere, it would be in the opera. I dream I'm singing in the opera during church. While the pastor wipes away his sweat, I imagine singing. While the deacon's feet are being washed, while the pulpit fills with the sunlight, I sing. A woman covered in hives comes down the altar. She is blonde and wearing a linen white dress. Her scarf is black, and she uses it to cover her face. The pastor keeps a safe distance. The woman begins to cry, and I continue to sing in the opera. I wonder how old the woman is. I wonder if she's past the 10th grade. I wonder if she knows the state bird of North Carolina. I wonder if she came here on her own. Her parents follow her slowly. Her mother is fat. Her father is fatter. I notice the crow on the piano. I quit singing in the opera. I want the woman in the white linen dress to notice me. I want her father to give me a job and endow me with grace. I want to work the fields and build a house for us. I can't help but imagine this future. I turn my eyes to the pastor who has taken off his coat. The deacons bring him a bucket full of water and rags. The woman in the white linen dress gets down on her knees, and the pastor begins to anoint her. She starts to cry. The pastor says a prayer. The father stands firm, and his stomach gurgles. The mother can't bring herself to look. Light has engulfed the pulpit, the altar, and now the pews. The crow leaves his piano perch. I watch as the preacher tossed off her black scarf. He asks her to pull her dress away from her neck, and she does. He asks her if she knows that Jesus Christ died for her sins, and she does. He asks her if she believes in the power of healing, and she does. Her white linen dress is wet with iron ore water. Her black scarf looks like a rat snake on the floor. Her eyes fall into themselves over and over and over, and I go back to singing in the opera. Thank you, folks. We drove the country highway here, I believe, from Asheville. So I'm going to read this little short one before I get into Thickets, and it's called Country Song. I always thought that I would write a country song. I don't think I can do that, but this is as close as I can get. Country Song. In the summer, you dance through the soaker hose. You take a sip and ask me about leaving. You say, if you moved away, you'd be a nurse. You say, if you were a moth, you'd die. And I look into the sun and watch it happen. All right. That's all. That's the sad country song I got in me, I guess. All right, but I'm going to read from Thickets now because I guess I have to, since it is a book. But I wrote this book in 2017, and it's just now coming out now. Obviously, came out in October, and there was a lot of weird things that happened, I guess, in the region, or especially the way people talked about people from the mountains, after 2016. So I just felt like it was best to just not put this book out into the world, even though it was really important to me. But I wrote this book whenever I was living at home, working with my dad. He's fixed cars my whole life, and I was sanding ambulances, remounts, and thinking a lot about work and labor and and all of that, how that psychologically impacts people, but obviously physically, since I've watched what it does to the body and things like that. So there's a running thread of work in this book, but there's also a running thread of a garden too. So I'll skip around a little bit. These are longer, sprawling sections, but I'll give you a taste of it, at least 3 sections. But I always like to read this little prologue here, kind of contextualize some of it. If you live near the hills, near where people use their hands, near where the days are hounding and long, where the screams inside your chest belt and buckle your knees, where your hands ache when you lay down, and when you close your eyes, you can hear sirens over the ridgeline. Pale green colors flicker, tracing a field bush-hogged and wounded. We become cut with the language and weight-damaging rain. Words lay sad behind my tongue. Words form an abandoned racetrack, a distorted and disfigured mile marker of me. Might you be home to one more good time? Video reunions of fathers coming home from Afghanistan play on perpetual loop. I see the gleam in the lines of the highways in the late afternoon rain. I see my dementia-plagued grandmother. I pretend I am the shadow figures cast on the rock foundation of my childhood basement, and the crows lining the fence to the trailer park. Rest is punctuated by the impending. We go back to work, or we sit down for a second, or catch our breaths, or go find something else to fix. And at the house, we tell this funny little joke about life. Everyone who dies also goes to work. This one's called Change and Erosion. Get a little taste of it. Some more West Virginia stuff. I guess I have some ties here. My grandfather, he was a kind of a rogue individual. He quit school when he was in 6th grade, and he's hunting trap for a little bit. worked in a coal mine up here somewhere for a little bit, and then raised my mom, and just like I don't know. He just got by. He did all kinds of stuff, but uh, this is called change and erosion. In the roads of some cornfield, shading accidents, my bones to become unnamed animal bones by the old swing set. And why do we try to live sometimes inside a machine that is both animal and human, that is both man made and organic? And why do my eyes burn so much when I walk outside in the spring? And why is my father so deathly allergic to horses and hay? And why did I just find out my great uncle and great grandfather died in a coal mine in West Virginia? And why was my grandfather a coal miner, if only for a brief period of time? And is that why his lungs failed him? There must be a fine weaver of lines that holds all my cards. And what is there to do other than to write more of this, more like this, steeped in the vein of myself and others, for the destruction of man may be the self-destruction of all. The improvised understanding, that's what makes us think. The ticking, the running or not. The sky will fold in, and when Gabriel's trumpet blows, I worry I may be the last to go, last to cut open my human body and be evaporated into the rays of blue sky. All I can say is that would be nice. All I can say is I would settle just to be a laurel bush, a branch that waves back and forth only once in a while. And all day, rain outlines every tree a new object. Month of grass evergreen, trembling, me already, a new me, gone. Language now ice, itself reflected, dusty wood, running roadside, almost. At times, the eye seems to be a sharp lens of connectivity, reminding the reader of the tender and wretching moments that we experience as a body, as a collective. Fucked out of money, and the land spit it back at us. We are forgiven for what we do, but who is foraging? Whoever is an Ornob mine has little or nothing to do with me. All my life begins as a cum shot slung from the native plant and nested into the eyes of the boss man. Man's pores gurgle up unsigned checks, and the pensions of the rest will be littered across the landscape. Arcadia, no more. A peaceful existence for me and my kins, no more. Perhaps it lies along the shores of the river we can't afford, where cash billows up near some time-flooded headstones. So long to the rest of everyone's paid vacation days. I will use the steel wool scrubber on my teeth and nip away any evidence that I'm responsible for. There are so many revolutions light years away. Hallelujah to come translated in rain, showers, high grove tree-lined figures, the moon again, lonesome, bleak, shaped like a tractor bucket. Horizon lines may outshine the floodlight. Art thou or aren't thou lichen, brick facing hedge grass, fingernails blooded, my tooth aching, that old hymn you remember. Faces become personified invitations of an investment opportunity, a grandstand hotel. The current now puddles in the clouds with rocking chairs implanted on the porch. Enough, just country enough to blow mine deep, stirred and shaken with the consciousness throbbing in the circumference of generations. An antique mall selling your grandmother's necklace as if it was pulsing from a six-pack ring. Rock ruins begging for blood. My own inextricable blood of the backyard no longer, where the shit tank leaked under the ground when it was full, and me and the neighbor boys couldn't play baseball back there and instead opted for the engine-dead bus sitting across from the trailer park. This is where I convinced the neighborhood kids of magic. I ripped the salamander tail off and it grew back. I found arrowheads beside Budweiser cans. I dug ginseng roots and pretended I was a family member I had never met. And the trampoline I got for Christmas rested violently in a thicket of geraniums, Earth's stale hands. I learned to hold myself up from the worn earth as rust flaked into the hollers. We are all pale, empty symbols then, TV cords behind the dresser, a piece of mind hung up on a gun rack or swimming in the river after the rain. And if you could exchange this memory, you would. Dead strangers would not recognize you in their final hours of existence, and corporations would all but be burned. Today, I stand in the rain during my break at work. I look up to the nameless mountain beside my father's shop, and I think about how green everything looks peeking through the mist. And what is one to do but bear it? Thank you. I'll do one more section, and then I'll wrap up here. But it's been a real pleasure. Thank you all for having me. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Kevin. That was sick. I'm really glad to have you along on this. Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Mackenzie. I really appreciate you all hosting us. Lewis, appreciate you holding it down. I've got books back there if you all would want any. I also have some tote bags and t-shirts that were all made by me and Lewis. And so happy to have this and happy to share this book with you folks. It really means a lot that y'all would come out on Friday. Yeah. This one, I feel like I've done a lot of religion stuff, but that's in here. This one's called Airlessness. We are born again and tossed, born again and tossed, born again and drowned. Embryos contrasted the clouded color of ice. My reflection, me, a pain, a sentence, wearing traces caught in veins, waiting on time spots in someone's mind. For whatever reason you have taken to find yourself not guilty of feeling this, just know that you are a portrait. Rotate the ridge in the landscape position and peer into the oblong sun. You are a banded arrowhead on the surface. You are still a dime a dozen. You ache like this, and no river can help fix it. No natural thing. The screen door clapping, frames on the table, pain pills on either side, missed child support payments, mounted largemouth bass held by my thumb. Will he call? Will he show up in court? Who's going to feed me or take me in? If I eat this, will I get diabetes? If I use this, does it cause Alzheimer's? What are the chances we die in this car crash? Where do people in this world take comfort? And is it in this hole in the tree, a portal to God of the darkest parts of night? I saw the first black hole photographed in space. What do you see when work has you wrapped in a ball, rolling over a hill? Do you think of how much you might miss? An offering of decay to the rivers where rock bass feed on the underside of leaves. We are stoned, injecting dirt into our arteries and eyes, and we are reminded of another narrative, a new, free blooming vigor, free from the cane crushing, the gnashing, and in this thought, you noticed a potted flower cluster growing together. They wrote their vows in the living room while the bank foreclosed on their home. Thistles from the state's fence posts were driven into the man's hands. Frozen over springs filled the ditches. This, the temporariness of this myth mixed with the lymph nodes, the swelling stress of money, and the tunnels in the mountains we pissed in without regard. Each thought produces a pattern more vigorous than rain. This is home, we notice, bundled tight in the truck bed. There are growing annuals and chainsaw repair shops, windows as open as a mud stain. The payoff is spiritual, but you can't spend it. It's easy to make money when you've got it. The construction company in my town grew from a one-man business. It's easy to open your skull when you're dead. In the evening, I wash my face and pick at the places the lacquer thinner dries out my hands. And I know if I don't get some rest soon, tomorrow will be hard. There's a rhythmic process to the whole thing. My life at this point, the gears are going. And the rhythms last longer for the people of the country. And the rhythms are swaying around, buckling the knees, but feeding the bellies. The hills are badly bruised. I found you bound in the creek with rhododendron leaves stuffed in your mouth. I want my soul to be there beside you. Remember me? I yell, tied up in the week old garbage. Me, asleep all night on the porch. I expect nothing. A screen door, a memory, the feeling of heaven or attachment to visions, mountain bright. It's red in the fall and Friday night. We sneak out past the county line. Narratives left standing in for us both. Too drunk to drive home, too calm to be engulfed in the swallows. The world, thin film crackles back to present. Excavation, caterpillar machinery, dismembered parts found in a gully. Thank you. I just want to leave you all with one more, but thanks again, you guys. This has been a treat. I really appreciate it. I really love that this museum exists and that you all are here doing this. So thank you. Let's close. Close with the last poem in the book. It's called Confused with the Same Leaves. The C-shaped cypress sits empty and caving in. Outside windows are hazed in corn stalks, and my hands become firing pistols into the god-green mountainscape. I hear a white and black horse galloping through my toothless face. As an infant, the flowers beamed more scarce, a gap in the alphabet. Human eyes rested on undeserving leaves. Evening is bright orange by yonder single wide. My grandmother slept in the creek when she returned to the mountains. Twinning leaves composed of flowers rotted in the thicket. A moving of history to present. We laid around all winter together. Our murky shadows become rib cages braided with root systems. Do you have any memory of what makes you? Hum some worried fiddle tune on the front porch where you lost it. I'm pulling a razor blade whisker close to a wrecked and dented ambulance box and stripping the glue and decals off of trucks, busting out dents and standing away corrosion before hanging them in the paint booth of my dad's shop. He's made his living this way since I was in high school. Each day is a similar process for him and his crew of workers. We take breaks and eat cookies and drink soda. We sit around the front desk and tell stories, and the evening folds in on itself when we're at home. Thank you, folks. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
One more time for Evan Gray, everybody. All right, looking at it, I think we have a little bit of time for a talk back if these fine folks would oblige us. We've got a microphone that we can set up over here if y'all want to carry it or come up and say something into it, ask your questions, or we can just shout it out, and I think this mic is hot enough to pick it up. So, Evan, Kevin, if you'd mind to come back on up here.
Sure. Fire us away. Yeah. We can also just talk, catch up.
What did you think about your set?
Felt good. Yeah, but we can take any questions from you guys if y'all are curious about us as people or the work or anything.
I have one.
Sure.
I'm a writer myself. I kind of write poetry compulsively, honestly, some songs too. What is it like to actually put your poetry out there? Because I'm a little afraid of that personally, but
Yeah.
it seems like things are lining up. Like this, I got invited to this by him, and
Amazing.
it seems like the universe is trying to talk to me to try to do those things. So what does it feel like to do that, and how do you go about doing it?
You want to take it?
Yeah, well, like it's not in your head. Like the part where you put it out in the world is definitely like you could argue that it's like the least fun part, but
Feels like it sometimes.
it's not actually true though. There's a big process of there's a lot of time that elapses between say when you are working on a manuscript to publish or you send things out to a journal to try and get them published. There's a lot of waiting around and feeling self-conscious about it, and then I guess like sometimes the idea of like my own work floating around in the world does like unnerve me a little bit, but then when I get to go and do stuff like this, when I get to actually go and do readings and meet people and travel around and get to share stuff with people and have conversations with people, that's where it really kind of comes home, and the any feelings of self-consciousness about it, it's worth it. But I mean, yeah, it does. It's like it takes. I mean, I've been writing for years and years and years. It took me a long time to put out a very, very small book, and I think that's okay to be super selective and choosy about it. Some people are more prolific about publishing. Me, I am like kind of self-conscious about it. But I think as long as like you kind of like, I don't know. I just think if you're working on stuff and you're putting in the effort, it deserves, you owe it to yourself to at least try to get it out into the world. And it might not always feel, you should be prepared for it to feel kind of shitty, when you're first trying to get stuff out there. But like, it's worth it because you will, you keep doing it. You will get to like connect with other people who are into the same stuff as you. And, I think it's definitely worth it, but it's not all the most fun.
Yeah,
I like just being in my own head and working on stuff at home. That's the best part. But like, I don't get
Very
to.
much catharsis.
Yeah, I don't get to go and do stuff like this unless I actually try to share my work. So,
yeah. I think for me, it's like I struggle with it also. Like, to me, it is kind of, in some ways, the least fun part of it. I would kind of, at least it feels like it sometimes. And then you're right. And then you like meet people and you get to do events and fun things like that. And then you're like, oh yeah, you have like those reminders. For me, it's like, it's just a strange experience also to just have people like read your work. Like my mom, for instance, she loves to say, I know what that one's about.
my mom does that.
Yeah. Like you think you're being coded, you think you're being artistic, but I know what that's about. So it's just like funny in certain ways. It's also interesting because like, I don't know, people expect a certain, like, I don't know. I feel like people kind of want to read a certain thing too. So, and people want to read different things also. It's just like kind of finding what it is that you want to write to those people. Because obviously, you can't write for everyone, right? So just like having a group of friends, having a group of people that you can share your work with along the way can just as important and helpful too. I mean, like Kevin's read a lot of my stuff early on and stuff like this, and I'll send Lewis like like ideas that I have and things like that too. So and to me that feels really important too. It doesn't always have to be like a published book or something like that. Like
It's that circle of sharing. It has to be heard, sort of thing. I've seen.
Yeah, you got to find some way to just kind of push the boat out into the water.
Totally.
I have people who are like, there's some people that like we're in Thomas that in the winter we'll try to get together once a week. We'll write on a prompt and then we'll just sit around and we'll talk about it. And it's really more just about conversation than anything. And those people are actually, most of them are not even like, they're like, there's almost nobody in that group that does writing even semi-vocationally. It's just one of a bunch of things that they're into. Like you can, if you poke around, and find a couple of people who just want to sit around, like I said, write on a prompt and get together over some drinks once a week and talk about it, like whatever it is, you know, whatever you can do just to kind of like get over that. I mean, I don't know where you're at personally in that process, if you already do some of that, but like, you know, just if you feel discomfort while you're first trying out sharing it, like just remember, like that's part of it. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
If you feel uncomfortable about it, that means that you're a human being and you're aware of yourself, and that's good. You know, if you didn't feel any discomfort whatsoever, you know, I would be like skeptical. I'm skeptical of that person who has no discomfort about like sharing themselves, especially if you've never done it before. So yeah, the discomfort's part of it. Just try to take whatever little step you can to just, you know, just workshop it with some friends, or, you know, whatever it is. And you don't have to just like take like a big swan dive into like publishing, right? Just getting together with people that you actually like and talking about work, you know.
Totally. Great question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Are you working on a second book?
That's a good question. I was actually, I am, but I work real slow. Like, this book here is kind of its own thing. Like it's, you know, looped together by like concepts. It's my concept record, right? Like it's my Red-Haired Stranger, Willie Nelson record. It's nowhere near that level, but it was like very much like I had an idea for what I wanted it to look like. I knew some of the like the you know, the way people write about Appalachia in some ways is just kind of like uninteresting to me, and like some of like the like exceptionalist arguments and stuff like that. Like, and I'm really like interested in kind of fragmented narratives of history, you know, like oral histories and things like that too, and the way that like all of like our you know, ideas of history are like culminated through like a bunch of things, right? There's not just like this kind of way of thinking about it. So all that to say is like my next book's going to be really different, I think. But you got a little bit of a taste of it and some of it, but it's going to be titles of poems actually. So that one's like sprawls for a bit. But I think that's what it's going to be, a little bit more tighter, but a little bit also narratively like uncomfortable in some ways. Yeah. Great question. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
What do you think about the train sound?
I got a video of you while the train was going by.
Sick. It kind of helped
I like it.
momentum wise. You know, I like to have noise.
If you were to like put out like an audiobook.
a little train sound. That's a good idea. That's a thing. That's a thing for sure.
I've never heard poetry like this before. It's not really a question, but it's more like just observational. It's kind of like, you know, you have observational comedy. You have no observational poetry. It's very interesting.
Thank you. Yeah. That's something I was kind of thinking about with the book too. Like, I don't want anyone to read that book and think like, oh, he has a great grasp of how to solve all of these things, right? You know, like, because I don't know. I don't like profess to have any ideas about that or anything else. You know, it was just my life, some of it, and some of it was also stories that I was told, and then things that I've seen, emotions that I've felt, things like that. Just like growing up, living through the recession, watching my parents like just kind of keep our necks above water in a lot of ways. My dad leaving like the Ford place in town and trying to start his own business during this, like fixing cars and stuff. And then like, obviously like religious guilt and things like that, which I'm like trying to solve this. I'm reading. So if anybody's got any answers, I'm all open. But all I can do is kind of like look into those things and try and figure out what mysteries are there and like embody it.
Is it kind of feel like kind of a deconstruction kind of thing?
For me, like philosophically, like deconstruction, you know, that's a good question. In ways, maybe like if I can see parts of things, I can begin to break them down and understand them in a certain way. But also like more so like the inner connections or like dialectics of things and how they kind of converge and relate, and like where it's hard to sometimes I think as humans we get like trapped into thinking about like starting points. Like if we can find like the starting point of like this problem, then we could really begin to solve it. And in some ways that can be true, but in some ways we also kind of misdiagnose what is also happening as a result of it. Right. I know it's like a weird kind of answer, but I'm always thinking about like the ripple effect of like larger things.
Yeah, you need to unpack your religious guilt. So you're gonna start with, I know where I'm gonna. God is where I'm going first. I'm gonna talk to that guy.
Yeah,
I think he might be the beginnings of this. It's like, yeah,
but it's actually just some guy down the road too. You know, like I don't know. Like it could be a little bit of that. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's a great question. Yeah. No.
Do you ever try to blend your music with poetry?
No,
Hey, you didn't sing any tonight.
no, I don't sing. I the answer is no. I like that they're separate.
Yeah.
I like that they're separate. I like that I can. There's actually there's some precedents for that sort of thing. I was listening to Max Oakes on the way up here, OCHS, and he has like a record from the 70s, somewhere thereabouts, where there's solo guitar performances, and it's these kind of like hazy, just odd like slide guitar pieces for electric guitar, and then there's like just straight audio recordings of him reading poems that he had written interspersed throughout the record. And it's like one of the only examples of that sort of thing that I've heard that I actually really genuinely like. It's hard to do, mix in like spoken word with music actually going on in the background. That's slippery. That can get real dumb real fast, right?
William Shatner is an example.
William Shatner is a great example.
Yeah, that's actually
right.
good.
And of course, he's kind of like been like, that stuff is sort of like retroactively become just like pure gold now, right? Because of just the way that like irony just gets more and more ironic, I guess, but until it becomes something different. But yeah, I don't know. At least for live performance, I like just having these two different things. I'm not a singer. I thought about like going in, if I did a recording, I wonder if there would be a way to have both recorded poetry and music on the same record. But no, a lot of times I do mostly reading, the music is just kind of there to bookend the set a little bit and give it a little bit of like, just give it like a little extra layer. It's just something that I like. I'm like I think of myself as some kind of like a half-assed goblin version of Steve Martin. Sort of like the very, very unsuccessful, not famous. Like, what would Steve Martin look like if he, if he had kind of went in like a different direction? But I was saying those things do exist out there where like I almost feel like the instruments are almost like you hear me play them, but they're also just there to kind of give a little bit of atmosphere. They're like up on stage with me, and I pick it up, and I'm kind of interacting with it, and so I just feel like the object itself adds something to the reading, as well as like the music that's played on it. And that's kind of what Steve Martin does, is that it's like a prop. He can play it very well, but it's also like a prop. You're up there, and it kind of gives him like a different posture, right?
Yeah.
So
how long have you been playing banjo?
Probably about 16 years.
Cool. Neat.
Do either of you have any special spaces or places where you can that helps you write?
Like physical spaces that we sit, that we, yeah.
Whew. Let me think. When I wrote Thickets, I wrote it a lot whenever I was not at home. Like I lived in Wilmington, North Carolina for a bit, and did school there, which is very different landscape. It's a beach town, but it's also a tourist town, and that's kind of the economy of Western North Carolina now. Is just like in Asheville where I live, like it's all seasonal, it's all tourism. Uh, so I was thinking a little bit about that, but I think being away from like home and thinking about memory and thinking about some of these things helped me write it a little bit. Now I actually like, believe it or not, it's not a very big or very nice, but I have a little office spot in my house with a desk and a computer and books. It's okay. I mean, it's fine. And for this book that I'm working on now, I'm doing it very different than I did Thickets. I'm like working digitally and like typing, but that book I wrote it all longhand in journals, just whenever I had a moment and things like that. And I was really kind of trying to transpose it from the journal to almost look as close as I could in like a Word doc, and then later a PDF, and then now a book. So I was trying on multiple levels to try and keep a little bit of that process visible through it. That's why it's a little messy also, and why I kind of leaned into that, because it's not how I want to work forever, but it's also like it felt critical to that book. And so now I actually have a little bit of an office, and I like being able to like watch videos sometimes. Like I don't know, like I like being able to just type into YouTube and just, it has nothing to do with it. Sometimes I want, like I'm writing something, I'm like, oh yeah, like I wonder like how to smoke chicken, like like, or make a barbecue sauce that's good, and I'll just like do that. I don't know, I tend to work like very like in a very disorganized way, so being around a computer lately has been helpful for me. I know some people that's a nightmare though. So yeah. What about you? You got a physical space?
I definitely have a dedicated space for music. I have like a spare room in my apartment where just because I don't want to always be like, I have like an electric guitar set up. I don't want to move that all over the house every time so I try, actually just recently I put some effort into getting that room set up just the way I like it, and get it so that I can reach all my stuff, and invested like a little bit of money in like a rack to put my instruments on. So I've got that, but for writing, no, it kind of depends on, like, I'll get stuck on writing at a certain time of day, and then that will kind of like dictate where I work.
Yeah.
And for most of this last year, and actually like historically, I would say in the last 7 or 8 years, a lot of the time when I write like in bed. Like I write it's late at night. A lot of times it's sort of like my last, like, if I've got like 45 minutes left of brain power before I go to sleep, and a lot of times that's when it happens. So like, and I really love, like, I got my bedroom set up exactly how I want it. So I don't treat it like an office, but like the lighting is nice. I make a pot of tea. I'm like in my boxer shorts, and I get under the blankets and I get real cozy. My cat gets up on the cat on my girlfriend's there, and the dog is in the bed too, and like and it's just I feel like finally I do not have to fuck with this day anymore. Nobody is going to ask for anything else out of me.
Finally some peace.
And I have trouble concentrating during the day, actually, because I always feel like I got to rush out. Like at the end of the night, I'm like, I'm done. I cleaned the kitchen. I took a shower. I did all of it. So yeah. But it's dictated by the time of day. If I'm working during the day, then I don't know, I'll sit on the couch in the living room. But like, yeah, a lot of the time I'm sitting in bed writing, and I'm on my laptop.
Yeah. I will say for me too, like the pandemic really changed it for me. Like I always like to go out and write, like in coffee shops and things like that. But once the pandemic happened, I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I was living in Pittsburgh at the time. Nothing was open. I was just like, I'm gonna watch Top Chef and try and write or do something.
Very similar. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think I've always heard that you should write when your editor's not awake.
Hey, that makes sense.
When you're first waking up, or when you're getting ready to go to bed, and that
Interesting.
parts of your brain you just shut it off.
Yeah.
Another time that happens for me, and one of these days I'm going to die doing it, is in my car. I have a funny
Oh,
problem
wow.
driving. I'm like, still on the
Yeah.
phone,
Use the
driving
voice
right.
memo. Yeah.
I'm going to get pulled over.
I
one
don't.
day.
I don't want to encourage you by saying that's kind of awesome, but it's
Yeah. Yeah. You got to have velvet on the brain. Like, I think Thomas Wolfe said that, but you also can't do that when you're driving. So, yeah. These were great questions, y'all. Thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, and I'd like to thank everyone here for coming. Thanks to everyone who tuned in to the live stream. As you're leaving tonight, definitely check out the merch table. The museum store will be open as well. We've got an evaluation form that it would really help us out if you could fill it out. Just let us know what you thought of the evening, how we can make events like this better, and like what kind of events you would like to see here at the museum. If you like what we do and you want to see more stuff like this, please consider becoming a museum member. For as little as $5 a month, you can support our work, and you'll get free admission to the museum throughout the season. There's discounts, advance access to new merchandise that the museum store gets into. There's a ton of benefits, and you can do it all with the knowledge that you're helping us to preserve and tell the story of the West Virginia Mine Wars, bring in more stuff like this, and most importantly, pay my salary. But thanks again. Kenzie will have the forms to pass out to you as you're heading out, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you.